What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Buffalo Commander. I'm your host, Alex. I'm joined by my co-host, Kevin, today. How's it going, Kevin?
Good, Alex.
Good. Please like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and leave a comment. Today's show will be about the Washington Commander depth chart and position competitions and kind of a training camp preview that will kind of take us into what to watch for as the preseason and training camp rolls along. And then we'll kind of take it from there. How do you feel about them not picking Washington and going with Chicago for Hard Knocks?
Yeah, I'm disappointed, but obviously I think that they made a pick based on revenue and what they think that would draw the biggest crowd. So I understand, but I think that my guess would be the Commanders was probably a close second on that.
Mm-hmm.
And I was excited to, because I think there was probably a possibility that we'd be on there. We've never been on there. That would have been really cool.
I think it would have been really, really cool. I think that I would have loved to see that more than Chicago. I think at least with Washington, there's at least an element of not mystery, but there's more of an element of like Mariota's there, and there's been talk of like they're going to compete, but not in Chicago. Caleb Williams is going to get the job, and it's going to be just going to be normal run of the mill. Now, I do say Caleb Williams is more fun to follow because he's so unique.
Yeah.
So
you're right. I mean, we both think he's really annoying, and I agree. And we're both interested and excited to watch Hard Knocks with the Bears, but I think both of us we're probably going to walk away being even more annoyed with the guy. He's just super annoying to me.
I think so too. Yeah. He just comes off very.
I agree.
It's not even cocky. It's like
it is
entitled or something. It's
weird. Like he's the smartest guy in the room, and his need to have stupid things that he wears and stuff. It's just like he's a little bit too much.
Yeah.
There's no humbleness. You don't see any humbleness.
Nothing. Yeah, that's it. That's what it is. It's the humbleness.
Yeah. And, Jaden Daniels, I'm happy to say, seems to be exactly the opposite. I love our pick. I'm glad that we actually picked Jaden over. Even if we were number one. So we'll see.
Yeah, I think that's probably a pretty good transition to like what I heard last week about Drake May too, where Coach Brown, the guy who did what's that show called on Netflix? It's called
Quarterback?
No, not Quarterback. Oh, Last Chance U.
Yeah.
He's the coach of one of those junior college teams where you have a lot of guys who actually end up going to the NFL. Some of these guys who are trying to like get their football career back on track after messing up like their first round go around in Division I college or in high school, and they're having to go to here. And he's a character to say the least. And I'm not like a huge fan of him, but I kind of caught him on YouTube one day talking with the guy who is co-host for Jason Whitlock's show.
Yeah.
And, Whitlock's got like that quasi political / sports show. I'm not a huge fan of that show, but the guy who's on there is in the know. And they both said that they knew people inside the building, not just like what we heard on Twitter, but like in the building, say that they think they made a mistake drafting Drake May now.
Yeah.
And that means it's not about Jaden Daniels or Caleb Williams. That means they thought they made a mistake by taking Drake May instead of JJ McCarthy or Penix or a trade down and punting on the quarterback position.
Still too early to know that for sure, but I do want to just remind everybody that I told you that Drake May was probably the biggest bust potential personally. So, hey, but back to Hard Knocks.
Yeah.
One thing about the Commanders, they do have more storylines. It's not just the team and roster and the number 2 draft pick. It's the new coaching regime. It's the new front office. It's Dan Snyder's gone first years from him really being detached from the team. So a lot of different storylines there that would have been really interesting to follow.
And I think that's why we're having this conversation today.
Yeah.
Because when I looked at your roster, and we'll take a look at it in a second, I saw a lot of position competitions that are, I think, very intriguing for preseason viewability. So like if you have a bunch of guards competing, like who cares? But if you have like a receiver competition, that's kind of fun to watch, or a quarterback competition, So I do think that there are some position battles that are worth noting and getting into, and then also maybe diving in a little deeper to see if Washington even did enough. I'm going to go ahead. Do you have anything else before we share?
No, just exactly that. I think the most interesting thing that we're in the dark on is how the coaching staff feels about the roster of people that were already there, not the draft picks, or that's interesting too, but these pieces that are still there and the different positions that obviously I think are going to have some battles. And that is the O-line, secondary, maybe linebacker, I think is interesting too. Maybe not. I don't know because of our pickups there, but and wide receiver, like you said.
Right.
So,
right. Yeah, he made corner too. We'll talk about it. We'll get to it. Let's go ahead and pop it on there. There we go. And then I'm gonna try to zoom a little bit.
Yeah, that's good.
There we go.
That's perfect, man.
Yeah, that looks better for you?
Yeah.
Okay. So and I'll just scroll through as we go. I've got a touch screen with it, so we're gonna maybe even go a little bit deeper here. Okay, so this is just we'll start with the offense here. Anything that sticks out to you, like right off the bat, like what you're seeing, and also like positions that you feel like are just you're good.
The one interesting thing on here is this guy that you and I have actually talked about, and that's that wide receiver that went undrafted, but you had a lot of knowledge of him, and you know who I'm talking about, Saint Jackson.
Yeah.
Jackson Saint. I don't see him on here.
Oh yeah, I don't know why. Wait, I think did I cut him off? I thought I saw him on here earlier. Yeah, so this is ESPN, by the way, just to kind of give everyone a heads up. They don't have enough slots to do 90 people on the rosters, what they have right now.
Okay.
So in the preseason and in the training camp, they have 90-man rosters, unless you have a somebody from the pathway program, then you can add one more. But so they don't have enough spots. So yeah, Rosemy Jack Saint, who you're talking about.
Yeah. I think that the wide receiver slot, you know, starter and second, I think that looks. I love that idea. Luke. And Jameson.
Yep.
De'Ami Brown's the one that I think he might get. I think he might lose his job with some of these new wide receivers. But
so I think that's a good discussion to have to start off with too. By the way, the quarterback position's done, running back's done, so you don't need to worry about those. Like you've got your receiving back who's got quickness, who is a little bit smaller. Then you got your big bruiser back, Brian Robinson Jr., and then you got your Chris Rodriguez is going to be a third back, is actually a pretty good third.
I love that. I love the tight end position. I love Ertz, and then we've got the new guy Senate, and then John Bates and Cole Turner. I think Cole Turner actually still has a lot more to show. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, the upside isn't huge unless Senate reaches his for this year, because tight ends take a little time sometimes. They're a slow developing position typically. Although in the new NFL, it's a little bit different, but typically. But Zach Ertz is a good placeholder until he learns, and Zach Ertz can teach Senate some of the things that he's not good at. They're kind of polar opposites of players. Senate's more of like an athlete and an H-back role a lot of times, where Ertz is like your straight up typical old school inline tight end. Even in his prime, he was that, you know.
I know him so well because he was just a freaking Redskins killer.
Yeah, exactly.
And not necessarily on touchdowns, but the third down conversions, he just killed us. And I love these on our roster. Now, he had an interview not long ago, and he does say all the things that a typical older tight end or player for that matter says, which is, I'm not done. I'm not, this isn't the end. I'm super healthy. I'm ready to get out there. That's the only thing that concerns me is a little bit is if he's maybe, he can't do what he used to do. He's very adamant that he can, but we'll see. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think he'll do enough to give you a safety valve.
Right. I mean, he wasn't unproductive in Arizona, and he was on kind of a bad team. So I think it remains to be seen what he can do.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah. Now, the biggest red flag on this entire thing, obviously, I think most people would know this that follow the Commanders, is left tackle. So on this, we've got the starters, Brandon Coleman, but he absolutely is a project. He's played guard a lot. Very raw, a lot of talent. I'm still surprised to see him put in here as a starter on that because I still think Cornelius Lucas probably will be the starter, which isn't saying much because we just don't have much at this position. That's the biggest weak spot for us.
So I did some research on this one just to kind of give a little at least a fair look at it. But But let's talk about wide receiver first, so we can go down the list.
Yeah.
From the top, because I had something I wanted to say about that, and I don't want to lose it, and that's the main thing. But I want to come back to Lucas because that's one of the people I want to talk about, and Wiley as well. So your receiver competition is going to be interesting. I think Diami Brown is on the hot seat for sure. He's a downfield receiver who played one way in college, but he really hasn't translated. That was my worry about him coming out was you've got a speed threat receiver who runs a lot of 9 routes and posts, and he ran like a 4.5, which is fine, but he's not like a big guy either. So like he's in that in between speed, in between size, in between skill, where he's not great at anything. He had one thing he was great in college, but he may not be fast enough to translate that to the NFL game. Right. So, he's on the hot seat along with it's just going to be wide open. I think Jamison Crowder has a sneaky good chance to make the team, but I could also see him getting cut. You legitimately have 6 or 7, 8 guys that probably are fighting for three all your backup spots at this point.
Yeah. Well, about Diami Brown, I know you talked about that, and you're better at that than me as far as his 40 and all that and how that compares. But I will say that me watching him last year, he does get open a lot. And he was really good at getting open and creating separation. The issue that I saw was I just always called him Mr. Almost because he almost had a catch. He would always – And to be fair to him, a lot of these were difficult catches, but that's what you need to do, where he would have to maybe dive a little bit or, it'd hit his fingertips and come off. He never caught those balls, always dropped them. And you can't do that when you're really going to have that position. Yeah. And that's supposed to be your role as the wide receiver.
Man, his stats, I was looking up his stats while you're talking. His stats are really bad.
Yeah.
I mean, bad. Like his best year is 12 catches. That's not good.
But I'd be interested to see how many targets he had. Does it show targets?
Yeah, hold on. I think so anyway. Yeah. 23 targets last year. 23 last year.
Okay.
It's not a lot, but it's still less than a 50%. He was targeted a
lot in the end zone. He was targeted a lot on the flat, and he just dropped every single one, it seemed like. So
he's got a catch rate of a little over 50%, which is bad. But because of the way he plays down the field, his catch rate's going to be less because he's not catching like in breakers and hitches and slant. Like he's doing a lot of like deep ball stuff. So they may have just been using him for that one thing. But it does concern me that he's not getting as many targets. Maybe that could be a quarterback issue, but I don't know. Like I said, I think that there's 3 spots open at receiver. I think your starters are set. And then I think that you're going to have guys like Dax Milne.
Can't wait to see Dax Milne be gone. I'm tired of seeing that name. He's done absolutely nothing since he's been here.
You got a bunch of guys have done almost nothing except for Crowder.
Well, okay. And as far as Crowder, I would not be surprised for him to also – now, we used him in more of a special teams role, and he's been pretty good at that. You know that, Alex, as a Bills fan.
Yeah.
But the Kashmir Allen, we picked him last year. I'm surprised we didn't see him more. I would not be surprised if he actually takes that role in special teams.
What's he looking like?
A lot of talk about that, obviously, with the new kicking rules, too. The dude's sneaky fat, and he's good at that. So I really want to see – I wouldn't mind seeing him more.
Okay. Is he he's more of a slot player, I'm guessing?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just trying to look at him right now.
Now, it could be that Jameson's still that slot, number 2 slot, but I just see maybe Kashmir Allen being the special teams guy. But we'll see.
Right. It's possible. Yeah, and you got to realize, too, when you're looking at receivers, like you obviously have – Luke McCaffrey's obviously going to probably – like Luke and Jahan are going to man your – man, you've got 3 Z receivers. And what that is basically 3 outside receivers that all play off of the line of scrimmage. They're better in that role versus playing at the line as an X. Okay. An X would be a guy who's going to you're going to have to deal with jam a lot. Where the Z guys are guys, and Curtis Samuel's another Z that plays slot too. They're usually
There is a wide receiver I just noticed is not on this roster anymore that played a little bit last year. And I can't remember his name. I'm going to see if I can look it up.
Well, Curtis Samuel's in Buffalo, bro.
No, not him.
Okay. while you're looking it up.
So, yeah, you go ahead, man.
So what? So you've got three guys who aren't traditional X receivers. They're just, they don't have the physicality typically that comes along with it, but they are outside receivers, and some are a little more than others. Like Terry's more of an outside guy who can play a little slot. Jahan's more of a, in my opinion, a slot guy, or should be a slot guy who plays on the outside as well. Luke McCaffrey's the same. They're all going to just be movable pieces, so they're going to be able to interchange a lot. And I like that.
Yeah.
You're not going to know who's it. Like they all do similar stuff, the three of them, you know, they're all similarly speed, similar size in a lot of ways. Dotson's a little smaller than both, but you legitimately have three guys in the back end, a wide receiver 4 or 5, and probably a 6 if you carry one, where you're going to need to fill the spot. And I do think that that's going to be something that you guys are going to have to figure out on the fly. And that's going to be fun to watch in preseason. Like you're going to see guys step up and not. I will err on the side of
Byron Pringle is who I was thinking of.
Pringle, yeah.
But he was only on a 1-year deal. He had flashes to me, but I don't think it's that big of an issue if he's not on the roster anymore. Yeah, we'll see. Yeah, no.
And I'll say this: people need to be aware that preseason football is actually less meaningful than training camp. So pay attention in training camp on Twitter, because you'll see guys who pop in preseason games late in the game. You're like, wow, that guy's got to make the team. And then all of a sudden they get cut, and people fall in love with these guys who are like,
I know. I used to do that years ago. I would do exactly that.
And they value a lot more into camp, because camp is way more like there's 5 weeks of camp or whatever.
Yeah.
And there's only three preseason games with varying levels of playing time, targets matter. They care about blocking. There's a lot of things that coaches care about that we don't. And they get to see that, and effort matters. They get to see them behind the scenes of like what kind of person this is and what kind of effort they're giving, to know if there's like some upside and some ability to kind of improve. So, okay. So I think that's going to be an interesting comp. Let's look at tackle like you were talking about. I looked up 2 things real quick. You mentioned Coleman and him. You said at camp, they kind of said that he's going to be a project.
Well, no, the camp didn't say that. The coaching staff. I listen a lot to Chris Cooley. I really respect his film breakdowns.
Mm-hmm.
And Chris Cooley did a film breakdown, and he said, okay, I understand why they drafted this dude.
Mm-hmm.
He's got a lot of talent, but he's just so new and raw that he's only going to be helpful in certain situations, mainly, certain strong side running plays or something, but not anything like weak side where he's got to be the main guy. He's not there yet. He just doesn't have the skills yet. He doesn't have the, So I think he's going to be used in a limited role, and they might actually expect that from him, and they still wanted to draft him. But that's why I just don't know if he's really going to be a true starter. Week 1.
So I think he has great length, and his profile is that of
and really fast for his size too.
Yeah, I'm trying to look up his RAS right now to see. I think it was pretty good. Because he's got this, he's got the profile, in my opinion, of a tackle. Although I think they're extending his. I think he has more playing time at guard, just about a necessity mainly, And I think people are kind of extrapolating that to what he would be in the NFL. But his arm length is 34.6. 34 is your threshold, right? That's where you want a tackle to be. He's over that. That's good. 40-yard dash, 4.99, sub 5 seconds. Really good. He's a 6'4.4". So he's 6'4.5". That's what that means. And because it goes by eighths. So he's a little short, but nothing crazy. Like Deion Dawkins for Buffalo is 6'4.5" and 313, which is fine. That's nothing crazy. Vertical 34 inches. That's really impressive as well. I don't know what happened here. Did you steal my screen? And then a 9'8" broad jump. He's a 9.98 RAS, 9.97. Okay. So mine was unofficial numbers, but those are the officials. Okay. So what I will say is he's got all the upside talent in the world. I understand the pick of why they did it. Now, playing tackle is a lot about mental reps and quick feet and things like that, and hand placement. And that's going to be something we'll see if he can develop over time. But you have a versatile piece, even if he doesn't work in left tackle.
Look at it. Do you think we could do a 4.99, dude? A
right now.
4.99 40.
Right
Yeah,
now.
right now.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
right
On a fast track at 42 years old. Sure. Give me cleats and a trainer. You guys got to train me to run too. Because these 40 guys, they train for like months.
That's a good point. They get little tidbits on how to
they
make
get tidbits on start and things like that. I think that we would have to do those things in order to get better at it. In high school, yeah, for sure. No question. But
could
now,
this dude run us down?
Currently, yes, like a grizzly bear. But in high school, I'd say no.
Yeah.
I mean, they do hand times and things like that in high school football, but we never. Right. I think we may have done it once in 11th grade or 10th grade, but I don't remember what I did. I know it was sub 5 seconds. What I did, I don't remember what it was though. But sub 5 seconds in high school is pretty fast.
Yeah.
People will tell you they ran 4.3 or 4.4 in high school, and they're lying to you most of the time. We had a guy, DJ Coles, who played at Goochland, and then he went on to play at Virginia Tech. I watched him play in high school, and he ran by people like a gazelle, and they had no chance. And then he went and ran at the NFL Combine when he came out of Virginia Tech, and he ran a 4.6.
Oh, wow. That's crazy.
And he made people look slow.
Yeah.
So, if you're running sub 4.6 or whatever, that's going to be a situation that I'm going to add it back in. It's going to be a situation where like you're killing people. But anyway, the bottom line is he's a good athlete. I did want to say something about Cornelius Lucas. He's like 32 years old, so he's a little long in the tooth.
You looked him up? Yeah.
Yeah, but the thing is, I'm kind of going back. The only thing I have to go on is PFF without actually diving into his tape, and I haven't done that, just to be fair, okay? But I do want to go into some of these scores PFF-wise. So 2009, I'm going back 5 years, to be fair. 2019, he was a 72. Okay, that's good. That's starter level on their terms. Okay, 70 and above for PFF is you're a starting level tackle or player. Okay, 2020, 78, very good. Then you're getting into the tier of like your Pro Bowl level at that point. 2020, 2021, 75, very close. Okay, 2022, 67, that's borderline starter. And then last year, 62, not awful, but not what you want, but not like he's not a liability either. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
He will be a liability against good edge rushers, but like other than that, he'd be fine.
Right.
So my point is that maybe it's possible he's just getting long in the tooth and now he's fading. I don't know. Do you remember him being better before?
No, just a jag, just a guy. And this kind of leads into the other thing too, Alex. If you look at our right tackle, Andrew Wiley,
that's my next thing.
A lot of complaints about him throughout the season. But you've got two different camps here. You've got a camp of people that say, "Oh, this guy sucks," and he was questionable. But then you've got another camp that says it's not really Andrew Wiley, it's Sam Howell.
Sure.
And how Sam has really struggles and gets nervous in the pocket and panics and goes the wrong way.
He had the worst sack to pressure rate or something like that, right?
Yeah, it's just such a question mark. And that's why I think it's going to be really interesting to see what this coaching staff actually thinks of the players.
Right.
Because we'll get an answer pretty quickly on if they thought it was Sam Howell or they think it's the player that needs to be upgraded.
So one extra point on Wiley. I did the same thing for him.
Yeah.
2018, 66. 2019, 67. 2020, 55. That's his worst year.
Yeah.
2021, 67 again. Okay. 2022, 63. 2023, 69. That's last year. So last year he played at a solid, very good starter
and we're
level.
talking about with him with the Chiefs, correct?
No, we're talking. Yeah, most of that's Chiefs, but now the most recent ones is his best year, 69. He had a good year last year.
So the best year was with. That's interesting. Okay.
With PFF. So what they do at PFF, they don't rate you on how many sacks they do talk about sacks given, but they want to know how many of them are your fault.
Yeah,
right?
Did you do your job?
If you're holding a guy up for 3 or 4 seconds and then your quarterback's still holding the ball and he beats him, he gets sacked, that's not Wiley's fault. He held it for 3 or 4 seconds. 2.6 seconds is like the average time to throw for a quarterback. So that's really not bad, right?
Yeah.
So it might be better than you think. I think Nick Allegretti is a starting level left guard. He's going to be good. Sam Cosmi is I read on Bleacher Report He's going to be the next guard to get paid, and no one's talking about it. And then you have
he's one of the few picks that Ron Rivera got right.
Yep, and then Tyler Badass.
Tyler Badass. That's right.
It's Biotish, but Badass to me.
I know. But we like to say Tyler
he's going to be good. And then Michael Dieter as your backup center is sneaky good. He started for Miami for a very long time. He's going to be sneaky good for you guys as well, in my opinion. You need some depth, probably. But we're talking about depth guards and stuff like that. That's not a huge deal, end of the world situation. Most people have bad depth guards, so I think that's going to be a competition to look out for, is who kind of brings in the rear, and how Brandon Coleman competes with Cornelius Lucas, because he's going to get a chance to in live games in preseason. So
yeah.
Anything else on the offense you want to add?
Nope. Okay. I think we go to the defense.
Go D. All right, this is where I have more concerns.
Well, I just want to hear right off the bat, what do you think is going to happen with Emmanuel Forbes this year?
They're going to try to get him to start, and if he messes up, Michael Davis is taking his spot.
Okay.
Now, I don't know why they have Quan Martin as a corner here instead of a safety.
I just wanted the same exact thing.
Right.
What you just said. I don't know why they have him listed as a corner.
They've done this forever. I don't know why. They did it last year too, I think. No, actually they had him as safety last year in the depth chart last time I looked. So I don't know. Is Percy Butler really somebody who's going to be a starter?
He also
good.
I thought he looked really good. A lot of dumb plays, but he's young, and then a lot of really exceptional plays. I love our free safeties. I actually love Derek Forrest, and I think Derek Forrest should be actually the starter over Percy Butler. I love it.
So yeah, Butler was a 62 grade last year, which is that could be looked at a few different ways. PFF's not great with safeties, in my opinion, but whatever. 42 was a score the year before, though. That's not good. That's real bad. So Derek Forrest was a 61 also last year.
Well, he was hurt. He barely played last year.
Okay, and then 67 the year before, which is pretty solid. That's starter tier.
He had a lot of big plays.
66. So I kind of agree. The question is whether Forrest is a free safety or strong safety. Just on the most basic level. But I thought Quan Martin athletically is a freaky guy.
Yeah, he is.
And he should get a chance to compete for that spot. And I think he will. I think this is just like we have all these guys on ESPN and we don't know anything at ESPN, which we all know. And they just threw him in the thing and said, hey, this is what we think. They saw Quan Martin probably played some corner in college and they just threw him in a cornerback. So I want to start with edge rusher, though, because I think that's going to be your main problem going into the season. Dorrance Armstrong's fine. I like him as a solid 1B edge, not a 1A. He can get you 10 sacks a year kind of guy. I don't think he's ever going to be a 15, 16, 17 guy. You might high end 12, low end 6 kind of guy, right? But then you have Dante Fowler as the other guy. And Cleveland Farrell looks to be a backup. Andre Jones. Like, these aren't guys. KJ Henry, I know you drafted him, right? But he's a smaller.
Years ago,
a smaller edge rusher. None of these guys have ever lived up to their potential. Fowler's been in the league. He's a dinosaur. He's been in the league for like 15 years, I feel like.
But what about I thought Cleveland Farrell was actually –
he's a top 5 pick.
Yeah, but he's not on here as a starter, which I thought –
he's not, but he's not good. That's why. He sucked. So he's been a bust. The Raiders chose him, if that tells you anything. The Raiders love guys who are flashy on paper and then don't – or run fast, and they don't ever end up being what they should be. They're one of the worst drafting teams, in my opinion, every single year. What I would say is Dante Fowler has a lot of athletic upside, but now he's 30-something years old too. So that's going to be a problem. What I think is going to happen is Washington's going to use Deron Payne, Jonathan Allen, and Johnny Newton, and he's just going to get middle pressure a whole bunch. He's just going to keep rotating them all game, and you're always going to have some guy penetrating up the middle and wrecking shop, right?
Yeah.
It'll make things easier for Dorrance Armstrong and Fowler and Farrell and, Andre Jones and players like that, and F.A. Obata too. I think F.A. Obata has a sneaky good chance to potentially be the other starter.
Again, this is more your area, Alex, but can't they use the linebackers more so that
can flip them.
Yeah,
you can if you have the right personnel.
Well, I feel like we do. You don't think so?
Well, maybe Jamin Davis. Maybe.
I think they're going to really like him, and I think that's exactly what he's going to be used for.
I heard rumors that
yeah, very similar to what's his name?
Parsons.
Yep.
Did you hear that? Yeah, I heard the same thing.
Yep.
So he could be the sneaky good, like we're going to throw this guy in there and let him do his thing and just figure all the rest of it out. Because Quinn likes a guy who's kind of like I almost call Parsons he doesn't really have a position, you know?
Yeah.
He's not a true
I see that happening for sure.
Yeah. He's not true end. He's not really a true outside linebacker.
Jamin Davis has a lot to prove. They did not extend his contract. Mm-hmm. So I think he's got a lot to prove. I think he's going to fall in love with Dan Quinn too and do exactly what Dan Quinn wants. So and really athletic.
Yeah, and so here's another thing too is I'm interested to see how this plays out in preseason, to see how they test him out with this and if it actually works, because it's very rare for something to happen like Michael Parsons. And even with Parsons, they started early. They started like day one. They're like, we're going to make you this kind of player, you know? And now that, you know, we're 3 or 4 years in with Davis, it's going to be interesting to see how they transition. It's funny they put him as a strong side linebacker here if they have intel from Washington to give them to what their depth chart is, because that would indicate he's more of a pass rusher.
Yeah.
Most
horrible at.
Yeah. So. Well, he's bad at pass rushing.
Yeah, Davis? I think so. I mean, I wouldn't say terrible, but that's he's
going to have to fill in.
Bad. He looks lost anytime he's in coverage.
I meant pass rush.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So I meant Pat, like if he's a strong side, he's going to be more of a pass rusher. And also,
that's okay.
That would play to the idea that he might be able to be your Parsons type player.
Yeah.
Most teams run nickel defense in today's NFL as their base package, which means there's 5 DBs and 2 linebackers. Okay.
Yep.
So Luvu and Bobby Wagner are going to be your starting linebackers. Obviously, there's no question about that.
Right.
And then Jamin Davis is going to be like a chess piece. Now, if one of those guys gets hurt, Davis is going to step in. You're going to lose that pass rusher if he turns into a good pass rusher, you know?
Yeah.
So that's going to be interesting to see how they do it. The good news is that you have a defensive-minded head coach, and your team really needs that with this personnel. I think they probably should have done a little bit more on the edges, the perimeter of the defense, not down the spine, but like on the boundaries, corner, edge, outside linebacker potentially. But they got Luvu, which is fine. But he's actually played middle a lot. So if you got better in the perimeter, I think that would have made your even one player would have helped. And I don't really know why they got rid of Fuller, because I think Fuller would have been like you guys have been set.
Yeah, I don't know why either. To be honest,
I know last year was a down year for him, right?
Maybe statistically, but as a fan watching every game closely, I thought he had a great year.
And PFF agrees with you.
Yeah.
That PFF has him like an 80-something. So, I mean, letting him walk was interesting. I think there was more of a hedge on like, okay, we're Forbes. There's no bailing you out. You play or you don't. And if you don't, we have Michael Davis, who's a consistent, solid zone corner that can't keep up athletically, but it's not going to make mistakes.
Yeah, and I think they're looking more long term. I know, you actually think they're going to be okay this year, but they're really planning for next year, I think. And that's when they're going to spend a lot of money, I think.
I mean, they had the money to do it this year. I'm kind of shocked they didn't. I mean, they spent a lot. Like they got Wagner.
But a lot of that money we talked about, they can roll over. I just think that they wanted to start drafting more players. They go cheap and then add pieces with their money next year.
Here's the thing about next year. A lot of receivers are coming up.
Interesting. Yeah.
Jefferson, Ayuk, Debo, all these guys. They're all coming. Jamar Chase, they're all coming due.
Oh, damn. I thought, what's Higgins going on with Ayuk right now?
Nothing.
Okay.
He's just going to play. They're going to make him play.
Okay.
That's the thing. The same things happen with Higgins right now. Same thing's going to happen with Jefferson.
I got you.
They're all going to be due at the same time, which means you're going to need about $40 million per year to pay to a receiver if you want to add to your group. And that may be what they're prepping for in some ways to like give Jaden what Joe Burrow has, which is 2 elite or 2 high-end wide receivers, whoever that may be.
Right.
T. Higgins would be a great fit because you need a boundary, big-bodied, good hands receiver.
I can see us totally doing something like that next year.
Yeah.
Too.
And then T's not going to make as much money as Jamar and all these other guys. I think he's
Yeah.
making a lot of money. He's still going to make $30 million.
Right.
But he's not going to get the same contract as Justin Jefferson and players like that. So they may be prepping for that. It's potential. I think there's some potential in this defense. A lot of it's right up the middle, though. Like, I think safety with Jeremy Chin at strong safety. And I think hopefully Quan Martin steps up and plays free. Or Derek Forrest.
Yeah, I'm really excited about that. I'm really excited about Sandstro just by what everybody says about this dude.
Yep. And if you're running nickel-based defense, which most teams run most of the time, he's your slot corner. He's an extra linebacker on the field, basically. And he's that kind of player where he can cover and tackle, and he's going to have a nose for the football, and he can be good in run support for a corner because teams are running lighter personnel. Now, that's going to shift. Buffalo's shifting more to a 12 personnel. The cheat, which is 2 tight ends, one running back. That's what that 12 personnel is 1-2, 1 running back, 2 tight ends, right? 13 is 1 running back, 3 tight ends. That's a lot of what the Chiefs did last year, believe it or not. So there's a trend coming.
Interesting.
So the league is funny. It's organic. People don't talk about it enough. They're like, oh, it's just everything's going to spread, no running game. Well, now it's just a flow. Like now it'll bottleneck. Teams are running nickel, right? Yeah. You run nickel against me, guess what? I got 2 good tight ends now. I'm going to put them both on the field, and you're going to have to bring a linebacker in instead of that guy, and we're going to pass out of that set. Right?
Yeah.
So it'll come back, and it may not be what it once was, but we'll have running games will matter more and things like that. So we're in that early phase, you know, which is interesting, huh?
Your favorite?
Well, it's not my favorite, but it's my favorite when it works. If it's where the league is, like in the 90s, I was like, you need a running game because it mattered, right? But now I'm like, well, the running game's not that important. I mean, it is. It fits a change-up pitch almost, but it's not like something you should hitch your wagon to. I think the passing game will still rule all, but the last year the passing splits were way lower than they typically are. Like, I think the Chiefs and the Bills and some were under 60% passing. So, it was an uptick from years past where teams like a couple years ago were throwing the ball 65% of the time, Yeah. So it could be a phase back, which is good for some teams to kind of handle and deal with. And then, it'll mitigate some of the
I love our running backs, man. I really do. I love Brian Robinson.
Yeah. So
I know you're not a huge Brian Robinson guy, but I just think this guy got shot and still played that year and killed it.
He's a physical, powerful back. I think you have a good room. Physical. You got a good room.
Austin Eckler. I'm just concerned he's not going to stay healthy. We'll see. I just have a feeling Brian Robinson's going to take the brunt of everything and
he's going to get most of your carries.
Yeah.
My guess is like Eckler gets like 6 carries a game. Robinson gets like 12 to 15. Yeah, 12 to 15. 12.
Okay.
I don't think 15. And then Eckler's going to get like 4 targets in the passing game every week. That's my guess.
I agree.
And Robinson might get 1, and they'll just bring him in different packages. And then Rodriguez will be kind of your change up where like they don't know what's coming.
Yeah.
Because he can do a little bit of both.
Yeah.
At maybe a higher clip. Brian Robinson's an underrated receiver too. People don't talk about that. He's awful.
Great hands.
Yeah, he's got really good hands. I just don't see juice. Like I see like a very good, solid running back, but I don't see a guy who's going to like do anything at an elite level. That's kind of the thing for him. Like he's just good at everything, but he's not like, he doesn't have like one thing he hitches his wagon to. You're like, oh yeah, you got to watch out for that. We need to game plan that,
Yeah.
That's my main issue with him. Anything you want to do on special teams? I don't know if there's any kind of battles here.
Brandon McManus is in the news because, rumors of some sort of
I heard about that.
Me Too stuff, I think, right?
What happened?
I don't know. I haven't even followed it. I don't really care.
It sounds bad.
It sounds pretty bad.
It sounds pretty. Yeah. I mean, you should care. It sounds awful. Yeah, sounds awful. Okay, so he could be cut.
I don't know. I really don't know. I think it's one of those things where maybe we cut him because we don't want to deal with the drama, but he hasn't been charged with anything or even found guilty of anything.
Yeah.
So maybe we ride it out and see. I'm not really sure. We already cut the other dude that we had on our team, the previous kicker. So it's not like there's a battle there. So unless we just find somebody on free agency, I don't know.
I'll tell you one thing that I see here that sticks out that you don't want to see.
What?
Dax Milne's returning kicks.
Dude,
on both.
I think that'll change. I really do think that'll change.
The kickoff rules have changed.
There's no way that this coaching staff looks at the footage of the Dax Milne from years prior when he was the return guy and keep this guy even on the list, even as second or back or third. So
two things. Kickoff rules have changed, and this guy stole Zach Wilson's girlfriend.
I know. There's that too.
He's got swag, bro.
I mean, it's kind of a cool name, Dax Milne, but
Milne. I know, it's like, how do you pronounce it?
Man, I got so irritated with him. So
yeah, and they got Jameson Crowder there as a placeholder for punt returner. That's at his age, I just don't see that being a good option.
Me neither.
I think this is my hot take. Milne makes the team.
I don't want to hear it. You just say these things to piss me off, but go ahead.
No, I'm being serious. My hot take is Dax Milne makes the team as wide receiver 5 and returns kicks for you all year. He's obvious. They like him. Look at the thing. Look at it. He's right there. Where there?
No, I think my guess is that there was no reason to cut him. Let's see what he's got. They're going to see what he has. They're going to be like, all right, dude, pack your bags. Thanks for coming. Go hang out with your girlfriend.
Go hang out with your hot girlfriend?
Yeah.
Why is my camera all cloudy, man? Come on, get it back. When I get too close to it, that's what happens. Yeah, that's my hot take. I think teams are going to value